Hello there, Bic Benedict here. We're playing Gears 5, and this is my insane difficulty guide and walkthrough. We're currently on Act 1-3. It is entitled This is War. So the beginning has you trapped under some debris as two juvie types are coming at you. You have the one with grenades on its two shoulders, and then you've got the standard ones. So it doesn't really matter too much if they get too close to you. They're going to claw at you. And if you're caught in a reload, you're going to be probably having to restart the section. But they start you right here, and there's no fuss about watching a cutscene or anything like that. So just be mindful of potentially over reloading. If you're like me, where you reload the reload and you're just reloading constantly, it could be a problem for you. And sometimes I die on this part, but it's not overly difficult. It's not anything that you're probably going to, be worrying about or crying about, because it's too difficult, or not crying, but just lambasting the part in your mind. But there was one time when the one with the grenades jumps on a desk over here in this cutscene that happens approximately. Did it already happen? It happened over here once. Jack is very. Yeah, it must have already happened, but I was not. I had to reload when that happened, when he jumped on the desk, and I got killed for some reason. I'm not sure. Maybe Jack just wasn't firing the laser at that moment. But I wanted to talk about several things in this video. First of all, I'm going to drop the Nasher because I just don't care for it, and I'd rather just not even have it than have it, because it's not a practical tool on insane difficulty. Sure, for a juvie or something like that, but for me, I've never liked the Lancer, and I never will. So I don't play multiplayer ever, so I have no fondness for it or anything like that. But I wanted to talk about the Grenadier itself, not the one in this, well, kind of the one in this fight, just to start the topic, because there is a Grenadier that comes down the stairs to the left after you've killed every one of these enemies except one. But it's strange because the Grenadiers in the other games, they had the shotgun too, but they weren't like elites like they are in this game. But that doesn't matter too much, because I wanted to talk about the fact that enemies don't throw grenades at you in this game. And I find it kind of funny that an enemy named Grenadier does one thing only, and that is to come at you with a shotgun. He doesn't throw grenades. No one throws grenades at you. And maybe I'm just not remembering it correctly, but sure, you'll occasionally, they may toss one, and they may throw flashbangs, but flashbangs aren't damaging. They're just inconveniencing. So this is a very generous game as far as enemies not throwing grenades at you. And I just find it funny that a Grenadier, maybe he's named only that because he drops grenades sometimes. I never see him throw them in any game, but maybe I'm not seeing it right. Because in my mind, a Grenadier is just an enemy that comes at you with a shotgun. But I don't want to, just talk about that, because there's a lot of things to talk about. But I do find it funny that the game is very nice about not throwing grenades at you. Like, ever. In Uncharted, where you get a lot of grenades thrown at you and stuff like that. It's very strange. I also wanted to mention another topic about the camera shake in this game. You might say, well, what camera shake? There's no camera shake. And you're absolutely right. There's absolutely no camera shake in this game. Not when you're going up against surfaces, not when you're aiming guns and you get hit, not when you're firing the long shot, which we will be doing in a moment. So it's not a difficulty specific thing, but if you go into the accessibility options, you can turn on PvE, player versus engine camera shake, and you can get the camera to shake all you want if you want that, like it was in some of the other games. Because I know firing the long shot in, like, at least for Gears of War 3, it was a big hassle, because I hated getting hit while I was aiming and having all that camera shake. So if you want the camera shake, feel free to turn it on, but I'm telling you, it's not fun, and it makes the game less playable, in my opinion, and less fun. So Since it's not a difficulty specific thing, I'm not turning it on. I mean, if it was specific to this difficulty and you had it, I would accept it, but it's in an option in an accessibility setting, you know. So I'm not going to turn it on because I hate camera shake, and why would I, you know? So this chapter contains, I think, one of the hardest fights in the game, and I'm sure you know of a couple of others, and yes, I am including those when I say one of the hardest. I just don't think it's the hardest fight in the game. But I think it's potentially, you know, like I said, one of the hardest, because you've got a ton of enemies, and the game does give you a turret, and it gives you a bunch of good weapons, but I'm telling you, it's not enough, because there's like, it feels like 100 enemies coming at you. And they usually just come from one direction, but still. Oh, I choose Guardians at this point, and you know why? Because they drop off a rocket launcher at the end, and I like to use that on the Pouncers, who I really hate. I think the Pouncers are the worst thing to happen to Gears 4. But I come up here so I have a level playing field against these snipers. I think there's 3 or 4 snipers. And I've got to say, without camera shake, this game is really easy to get headshots. And I do have aim assist on, so I feel like I'm getting a little bit of help, you know, getting those headshots. But on the whole, I think it's very forgiving about getting headshots, even with other weapons. So, you know, but this game, aside from those things that I've said, it's not a cakewalk. I mean, a lot of it can be ameliorated by your upgrades, but there's some really difficult parts, and it's not, you know, it's insane, so it's not easy, and I think that's good. But some parts are just kind of ridiculous, because the checkpoint is lousy. Anyway, be careful of this, because there's a Scion up here that has a boom shot, and he can end you fast. He comes from, I believe he busts out of one of the buildings up there. And later you can go in that room and you can pick up a boom shot. Is he got a boom shot? I can't tell what he's got. It might be a salvo for I know, a rocket launcher. But he gets so close that I have no choice but to put a frag grenade on him. I could have abandoned my spot right here, but I committed to it. And I stunned him, but I you know, can't chainsaw him, so I only had one option right there. Either run or put a frag on him. And I wanted to get rid of him, but yeah, it looks like he's got a salvo or something. But once you clear everybody on the street, you're going to get a checkpoint, and then there's 2 Pouncers. Be grateful of that checkpoint, because on that fight that I mentioned near the end, you have to do all of those enemies, like 100 enemies, and then you have 2 Pouncers that can kill you instantly, so it's really ridiculous. It should have been all of those 100 enemies on a checkpoint, and then, you know, after you get the checkpoint, the 2 Pouncers, and then the Snatcher. But the Snatcher's on his own checkpoint. So I'm trying to use flash on these fucking Pouncers, but they don't stay still, and I can't do what I need to do over here. So I have the concussive purchase, but not the range. So I know they're out of range sometimes, but other times I'm really close to them and it's still not working properly. So later in the game we will be getting the flash freeze for the flash. So be waiting for that. And I wanted to mention that if I said it anywhere else about not doing the side missions, well, this walkthrough will contain all the side missions in Act 2 and 2 and 3. And if there's any, I don't think there's any in 5 or 4, excuse me, but there might be something. Now, why am I doing that? Well, it's because the next time when I play this, if there's an inconceivable, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be upgrading, and probably not going to use stim either. So it'll be a no upgrade run, no stim run on inconceivable. If there's an inconceivable, I hope there is. I wouldn't mind playing this game again. It's not too bad. But if you want to carry this weapon to the end, where that battle is, maybe to ease your pain a little bit, you can. But I don't think it's going to help too much, because you're going to have another Lancer, which is going to supplant the one we have now as far as the efficacy of it and the utility of it and the overall usefulness of it. And it's really sad, actually, because the Lancer has nothing else aside from an instant melee kill that I rarely do on this campaign. I'm not sure why. I'm deep into the campaign now, and I just don't chainsaw people. Probably because I don't have the chainsaw, but you know, it's just because the Lancer GL is the grenade launcher is so great. Otherwise, you know, it has hardly any recoil on it, but hardly any gun in this game has recoil in the first place. So that's probably something else that you can maybe change. I'm not sure. Maybe not. But yeah, this fight coming up is because I've done this chapter about 10 times now. You know, because I've wanted to come back and redo certain chapters. Like, this is a Redux video, just in case you're wondering. I also Redux the next video, and I wanted to start with the long shot every time, so I would have to come through this chapter to do that. And I would have to get, you know, I would have to go through that fight, and it's a pain. But that robot that I just ran past in the other room, it's a strange area because sometimes I would run past him and I would get killed in the cutscene after I had chainsawed him. So I decided, let's just not do the chainsaw this time and see what happens. And I ran past him, and then I didn't get killed in the cutscene. So I'm not sure what the hell's happening over there. It could be he's following me through the cutscene. Actually, he couldn't if I chainsawed him, right? So it's not. I'm not sure. The game's just messing up. But the fight itself, too, is hard because it's an early fight in this game and you don't have many upgrades because you can't have gotten many of the components. It's just, you know, this is not a New Game Plus scenario, so that's one of the challenges, too, because if you had more tools, you could do, you know, you could do more damage. You could hijack folks and you can put down proximity mines. The shock traps are one of my favorite upgrades in the game. We'll get them at the beginning of the next act, too. But I really won't start using them until the chapter after it, because I'll start upgrading it and be able to use 2 at a time, and it's actually just really great. In any case, this is the next area that you'll be fighting the remaining 3 or 4 checkpoints in, and the first part of it too, where you start to use the GL, has no shortage of enemies either, and I found that in both instances I was getting snuck up on from the back / enfiladed several times, so it always made me cautious about not paying attention to what was behind me or what was, you know, if I was in another position, anything to the left of me or to the right of me that was out of range. But that is a subjective thing that changes on a dynamic basis pretty much infinitely when you're playing something like this. Maybe not infinitely, but it sure happens a hell of a lot as far as what you do, because you do, you know, thousands of things while you're playing. There's so many things going on in your mind as you adjust to every minute-to-minute situation. And if I can, I think I'm going to recommend or at least show you. Got a great couple of kills over there. I loved doing that. Anyway, this is the checkpoint that that starts it all, where you get the grenade launcher. But what I'm going to do first is set up a little security for myself by putting some frag grenades down in a couple locations. And also, here we go. So I'm also going to show you at some point where I start to... Actually, no, we already did that. Did I already go over there and get the ammunition? No, I didn't. But I'll show you the site where the ammunition is over to the left from where I'm at right now. So the Lancer grenade launcher is definitely something you'll be using for the remainder of the game. And if you get a choice, you're probably, if you're like me, you're not going to choose the regular Lancer, because why the hell would you? You know, it's so much better, this one. Even though a lot of times I miss my grenades because I'm trying to aim at, you know, moving targets and I don't adjust it properly. But the GL works best for stationary enemies, because otherwise you have to adjust your sight on it when you start to do it. I'm going to pick shepherds over here because trackers seem like it would be an ineffectual choice just to have a bunch of balls rolling around. So I'd rather have, the shepherds, and possibly they can drop their guns, but they're only carrying enforcers, so not sure. But they seemed a better choice than the trackers. Yeah, and then because there's so many elite grenadiers over here, and they've got so much HP, so the temptation is to use the GL on the grenadiers, and that's a fine choice. See the one right there, but the grenadiers are always walking, so you have to adjust, make adjustments for that. And like I said, the GL works for stationary enemies, not horn winding bastards like these grenadiers over here that are always walking towards you, winding their metaphorical horn, as it were. If you need another GL, if you run out, Cole looks like he's the one that has it every time. So pick something else up and then just switch with him, and you can have another GL for yourself. Hopefully he hasn't used all of the... that was scary right there. Didn't mean to do that. But I did pick up the boom shot off that Scion, and my reason was I'm going to be using it in a lot of close proximity with grenadiers, hopefully in a manner that it's not going to get me killed, so I could safely use it. But I did drop the long shot in preference to the boom shot, because I just think that the boom shot is a little bit more helpful over here, even though I don't care for the boom shot as much as I used to, and I don't use it hardly ever. Especially when a torque bow is your other choice. Sometimes, if the two are next to each other somewhere, or you can get them at the same time, or near about the same time. But hell of a lot of enemies, huh? And there's also some juvies over here. Some of them have explosives on them, so you want to be very careful over here that you don't die. And, just be safe, be cautious. Nobody hardly ever comes from the side where the turret's on. But in the next part, I was getting snuck up from the rear and enfiladed, so you need to watch out for that by putting some grenades on the ground when the fight starts. Now, you can't put grenades on the ground and expect them to be there through a reset of checkpoints. Doesn't happen, they'll disappear. And you can only put 2 at a time on the ground, just like the shock traps when you get the upgrade for that later on. Anyway, here starts the nonsense of this huge dog shit fest over here of 1,000 fucking enemies. You're gonna get a bunch of horn winding grenadiers walking up the way. You're gonna get a bunch of these enemies with hammer bursts just behind cover shooting you, and you need to take care that you don't stay on the turret too long, because you could easily get killed on the turret, and you could easily jump off from the safe, you think it's safe, but it's not, and you can just end up jumping off the turret to your death as well. And since you don't have stim at this point, it makes it very difficult, because stim would make this fight a lot easier. We won't get stim to the beginning of the next act. So anyway, I'm going to head back because I think I do need to plant some grenades, but I kept doing this so many times and dying so many times that I forgot, sometimes did I plant the grenades or am I on another checkpoint? But just make allowances for the grenadiers when you aim your shot with the GL, because they're a walking target and you're often going to miss. And sometimes I think they can just tank a grenade, and I think that's probably the case, and I hate that, because why the fuck should they tank a whole grenade if it hits them perfectly, Maybe it doesn't, but I think they can live past a grenade. It's ridiculous. And what I mean is a grenade from the Lancer GL. So there we go. I planted the grenades just so, I don't get surprised, and it gives me peace of mind. I don't mind putting a couple of grenades there, because if I hear it and it goes off, it means people have snuck up on me, and I don't have to keep my head on a swivel at all times. But the shittiest part about this is that once, like I mentioned, once you do all this, nonsense? There's 2 pouncers, and they could kill you so easily. It's not even funny. And it's hard to hit them because they're constantly on the move, jumping all around, doing what their namesake is of pouncing. And if those quills hit you, you don't have much of a chance to live. If they do it 2 times at you in succession, you're dead. Or once if it's direct, and they're close to you, you're just dead. And sometimes you can't get on the turret because there's a bunch of guns on the ground, and the turret, the game can't make allowances for what you want to do. Grab a gun and go on the turret. So that wasn't the case there, but it can be the case where you're struggling to go on the turret, and the game just tries to keep picking up guns because there's guns strewn on the ground below the turret. So that's really annoying when that happens. But you don't often get enfiladed or snuck up on over here, but it can happen. I'm saying like maybe 25% of the time, 20% of the time, it can happen. Some of them can wander and end up behind you or to the left of you. So that is the case where it can happen. It's usually a grenadier too. It's like the worst one that could come over there. The turret's good, the turret is good. It's a little weaker than normal, but it has to be cooled down too. But it can do a good job. But, be wary of it is the thing. I think there's the pouncers. I hate this. This is so hard, because you can go so far away, and they can jump across the screen at you over here. So you need to take, and they're so tanky too. You need to take every opportunity you can. Hopefully you have some grenades left to deal with them. So just wait till they're standing still and then use it. I think I saved at least 1 box for this scenario. Yeah, here it is. So I've got some more grenades. Pulse is good over here because you can actually see where they are. So the pulse is a good choice to have on over here, but bear in mind, that's just to see where they are. You can't do anything else with it, but just keep chipping away at them and do as much as you can, and just be really, really wary of using flash too, because you think flash might save you, but it definitely didn't save us in the previous area. And sometimes Jack is indisposed. He can't do it because he's doing other things. Jack can also get felled. So there's a lot of things that can be going on. And you might say, well, you're abandoning that main area. Is it a threat? Can your teammate fall? Teammates fall because a lot of times if you abandon your teammates, they fall and you start getting fails. It doesn't really happen over here. It doesn't. Your teammates are just over there, and the biggest thing over here is not you failing the objective, it's dying. So don't worry about failing the objective. Go wherever the hell you want to. I suppose it could happen where you have your teammates fail, but it's not likely because one of them is usually preoccupied and then one of them is usually coming after you. The worst thing is if 2 of them are near you, there's not much you can do. Now, I could have died over here. I should have maybe died, but I'm glad I didn't, obviously, but that was a bad place to be in right there, but it's very difficult to control what's going on. And just realize that they shoot once, and then there's a pause, and then you can hit, and then, you have to duck down, and then they shoot again, and then they go on the move. Okay, one of them is dead. But you see how this is? They should have been checkpointed with the Snatcher over here. That would have made the Snatcher fight a little more difficult, but as it is, the Snatcher fight is a joke, compared to this part. Oh good, he's staying still. And other times throughout this campaign, Pouncers just, when you kill one, the other one sometimes breaks and he just doesn't move, or he just starts shooting in one direction constantly and you could take advantage of it, but these ones seem not to do that too much. I wish they would break because, I hate that part. But here's the Snatcher, and if you wait long enough, he'll come over to the right if you stay over to the right, and you can get on the turret and do some great damage to him. Just remember, if you're interested in carrying anything over to Act 1-4, after you kill the Snatcher, there's only a couple seconds to get anything that you want. So make sure that you pick up everything that you want to carry into the next chapter. So if you want a long shot, which I would recommend, grab the long shot and have it in your hands when you kill this thing, because they're going to transport you out of here. They're going to teleport you out. The game's going to get a cutscene, and then you're going to have whatever you have. So just take really good care that your skills that you want are equipped. I think you don't have a choice about that, but you definitely need to stock up on all your stuff, get all your grenades back, have whatever you want in your hand, and then just finish off this stupid thing. And it is stupid. It should have been checkpointed with the pouncers, but it's not. And as it stands, it's a nothing fight, whereas the previous fight, had some import, it had some, had something to talk about at least. And I know I was talking about it in a horrible way, but it was, it's just a badly designed a couple of fights over there. But anyway, that is the end of Act 1-3. I will see you in 1-4. Please take care.